What is going on? We're back at it again with the treadmill intro. Back from nationals, getting into some training. We had a couple weeks before Worlds here. Today we're gonna do some baseline deadlift volume, a little triple. We're gonna pull some reps against bands, do some bench singles, and then some upper back work. So let's go.
24 hours in a day, what the f you gonna say? Pick a lane, man, you gotta choose one. It's what they used to tell me every day. Caught a few along the way, don't be afraid if you gotta lose one. I'm trying to take it higher, the boy is on fire. You preaching to the choir, you know that. Never been a liar, the boy is on fire. I'll take it to the wire, you know that. Reach back, had to grab me a hit. I'm on the clock, game time, it's like I'm drafting a pick. Like a genie, I could grant you a wish. I'm so drunk, I just might smoke something if they pass me the shit. I gotta slow down, plenty of it here to make it go around. They was going slow and so I drove around. Ain't no question, course I hold it down. Course I hold it down. All I ever knew, this ain't no news. If you know Jerry, that's the way I am. Shut the door on me like when you signing out of AIM. I come back just to fuck them up, I promise I ain't playing, man. I do what I want and I'm the only one that say I can. I get what I desire. Pull up front door like I'm the driver. Wearing all black attire. Just right now, fuck with you prior.
So, pulling against bands for this next little bit, because if you watch that 375 back from nationals, you'll see that I lost a fair bit of position. And at the top, really had to kind of extend through lockout. Similar spot, I actually missed that last Worlds, that 385, 390, whatever it was. So I like the bands because they challenge that lockout component. And that's something I have to improve on. What I'm doing here is starting with a set of 5 at an 8, and then doing what's called a rep drop. So instead of actually changing the load for my back off sets, I'm just doing a few less reps and achieving a lower RP on my back off sets that way. So 5 to 3, there you go.
You only did 3 reps. Why are you breathing heavy?
Because I'm a 120, man. By the time I hit 170 on the bar, I was sweating, so. I might be a little less of a fake 120 here pretty soon. I'm actually filling out the weight class a little bit. Up around that 117, 118 mark now. Finally. I'm eating pretty hard into Worlds here, so.
Just gotta eat more McDonald's. Hashtag
McDonald's every day.
Sponsored.
Hashtag Olympic athlete sponsorship. McPlay or whatever.
McDeadlift.
McDeadlift. Give me some of that McDeadlift. Ba-da-da-da-da.
so that was the session today. Deadlifts went pretty well. I was feeling a little sluggish in the first rep of a lot of sets, but watching it back, kind of all moved the same speed. So I think there's like maybe a bit of a psychological disconnect between how it looks and the objective speed on my velocity tracker versus how it's feeling in that first rep. Now my knee and my hip, I feel them a little bit in that start position, so I think that makes me a little bit tentative. But then by the time I pull that first rep, it's like, okay, it's not so bad. So then I'm able to get through the rest of the set, the rest of the reps in a set pretty smoothly. Bench today actually was phenomenal. I never thought I'd be that happy with 160 kilo single. So what I did was started at 150 for my singles. Those moved really well. I hit 2 or 3 of those. Then I kind of realized I had a time constraint today. I had to go get a bunch of travel vaccines for Zambia because we're gonna go up in safari after South Africa Worlds. So I started setting a timer for 1 minute and trying to do my singles every 1 minute because they're single at 6 RPE, right? It's very, very easy stuff. I'm feeling pretty healthy shoulder-wise. So I decided, okay, here's another additional constraint I can use that isn't absolute load to make this a bit more challenging for myself. So started timing those rests really quickly. Managed to work up to 155 and 160 for the last 2 singles. So again, pretty damn happy about that. And finished off with some really heavy seated cable rows, which it's the day after now. We're filming this the next morning and my lats are sore as hell. Real quick, just want to mention that we are still running the 1-year giveaway for the app. Huge giveaway. We just posted the video about it the other day. If you go subscribe to our app, use code 1YEAR, follow the sponsors, all that stuff in that video, you're eligible for some massive, like $2,000 plus grand prizes, home gym type setup. As well as there's an Eleiko bar and supplements and all kinds of stuff. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal. App's 30% off with the code. Do it. I did want to tackle a bit of a topic today. I wanted to talk specifically about, because I'm starting to get a little banged up, I started training a lot harder after nationals. It was a significant ramp in my training, not only volume, frequency, and intensity, all those things kind of ramping up. And inevitably you'll run into aches and pains, potentially injuries. Anybody who's followed the channel for a period of time knows I've been dealing with a hip injury for 5 years, 6 years at this point now. So what I want to do is give a little bit of advice, sort of generally go over how I tackle running into injuries and pain in lifting. So the first thing when you feel some pain is to basically, number one, understand that you're going to be okay, that these things happen. We're not knitting, we're lifting heavy weights and striving for strength gains by lifting and exerting ourselves pretty heavily, pretty hard. So when you run into these things, understand that it happens, that it's part of the process, and that you very likely will recover and be totally fine. That's number one. Number two is to explore pain-free movement. So go back to the exercise that's problematic. And let's say, for example, with my hip, I can walk you through a very specific example there. I am generally able to squat light when my hip is bad. Full range of motion, competition squat, all the other variables the same. So that's one of the movements that I have that's pain-free is light squats, right? Using less absolute load. The other thing you want to look at is, okay, if I change my stance, if I change my cues in terms of like more knees forward, more sit back, if I change the bar position from low bar to high bar, if I use an SSB, if I do front squats, are some of these other exercises, if I modify the range of motion, for example, doing like a high pin squat or box squat, am I able to find other ways where I can load the, joint in question here without producing pain, or with, producing maybe a 1 out of 10 or just a little bit of discomfort, something I'm comfortable working through. And if you can do that, again, you're starting to stack up now a few different exercises and movements that you can actually train while your body fixes and recovers itself in whatever way it might need to, and while you desensitize to that pain and dissociate that pain from that movement, because you're keeping the movement in there and removing the pain. That is the whole goal. So, big thing, don't freak out. Next big thing, find things that you can do that don't cause pain. And lastly, come up with a plan to progress back to where you were. And it might be slow. There's probably going to be setbacks. There's going to be days where you go in and you're doing your, limited range of motion bench press, and oh shit, the shoulder flared up today. I had a bad rep. I pushed it a little too hard, whatever. Understand those are part of the process. That's not you starting over. There are going to be speed bumps in the recovery of any of these things. So understand that that's part of the process. And again, don't freak out when that probably inevitably happens. And just, keep adding a little bit of load, keep adding a little bit of range of motion, stay within that sort of pain-free zone. And before you know it, you're gonna be feeling pretty damn good again. So I get asked just constantly, every time we live stream, in the comments and YouTube channels, how do I deal with pain? How do I deal with injuries? So we have a much more comprehensive video coming on it, but that's the sort of skeleton of what it looks like to work through some of this stuff. So I hope that helps. Check out the giveaway, check out the training app, and we'll be back again today for another training vlog. So peace.